Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video, I'm bringing to you my January reading wrap-up. I managed reading a total of 20 books in January, which is way too much more than what I expected to read. It's not like I had a hefty goal to read as many books as I could in January itself, but I got addicted to a couple of series which ended up increasing the book count for me because I read them as audiobooks and I just binged through as much as I could. So in total, I read 8 physical books, 9 audiobooks and 3 ebooks. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. As per my usual format, we are going to start with the physical books, of which the first one is a classic book, and I cannot believe that the first physical book that I finished reading in 2025 is a classic, and the book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which is basically one of the most popular classic works out there. And I did not expect to like this book as much as I did before I started reading it, because I have tried reading this at least 3 to 4 times before this time, and each and every time something pissed me off about the book, either the writing or something, and I was not able to finish it at all. But this time I got to finish reading it, and I should say that I pretty much enjoyed the experience of reading this whole book so much. If I'm not wrong, this was published way back in 1813, and for that time period, the way in which Jane Austen has narrated the story is excellent. The kind of sass and sarcasm that the story has is really, really beautiful, and the way in which she satirically addresses a lot of societal issues inside this book was just awesome. For me personally, the language was not comfortable because I personally am not that much comfortable with reading classics which have a difficult language, and this is easily one of them. But as a whole, the love story in this one was really nice, and the love that develops between the two main characters towards the end of the book felt very practical and true rather than being dramatic, even though the scenarios during which certain things happen inside the book are extremely dramatic for this time period. As a whole, it was a really good experience reading this book, and I can see myself rereading it sometime in the future. So I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next, we have an adult contemporary book which has a little bit of romance towards the end of it. It is categorized as romance if I'm not wrong, but it does not feel like romance while you're reading it. And it is The Bookshop on the Shore by Jenny Colgan. In this book, we follow our main character Zoe, who lives in London, and she's a single mother whose son has a kind of speaking disability, if I'm not wrong. Since she's a single mother, she's struggling to cope with a lot of things that are going on in her life, especially financially. And during this time, she gets this offer to work as a caretaker of 3 children and their father in this very big manor or house in Scotland. Since the pay is decent and she'll be able to afford a lot of things that she's not able to right now, she decides to go to Scotland along with her son and starts her life there afresh with that family. Now the problem is that the family is quite problematic and dramatic, and the kids are quite difficult for her to deal with. As the story progresses on, she learns a lot about the kids and their father and what has happened in their family. And towards the end, we also see a romance blossoming, which is done in a very practical way. As a whole, it was funny, it was heartwarming, and a really cozy read despite the circumstances inside the book being a bit sad. So as a whole, it was good, and I ended up rating this one 3.75 out of 5 stars. The next one is this second book inside an adult fantasy series, and I read the first book inside the series in July 2024 if I'm not wrong, and I wanted to finish the series in 2024 itself, but because of the amount of depth and darkness that it had, I was not able to finish it in 2024. So the book is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang, which is the second book inside the Poppy War trilogy. I finished reading this one and also made a good progress inside the final book inside the series, which is The Burning God. I finished nearly 60 to 70% of that book, but I was not able to finish it in January because my brain was just not able to handle all the darkness inside that book to finish reading it. So this book starts off just a few days after the end of the first book, which is the Poppy War, and I cannot say much about this book without spoiling that for you. But in a spoiler-free way, I can say that this does not feel like a middle book inside the series at all, because nothing drags on and there's a lot of graphic content in here too. So if you are aware of some of the triggers that the Poppy War has, the sequel has exactly all of those things which were there in the first book. In the first book, it is all concentrated in just like 1 or 2 chapters in the middle, but in this book, it is scattered all over there. It is a huge book, so it will take quite an amount of time to read. I think this was the book which took me the longest to finish reading in January because, even though it flies through, the plot is really well done. The content of the book is not something that you can keep on reading continuously without getting tired mentally. At least it was so for me. Yet it set up the finale for the series really well, and I'm enjoying the last book too. So I ended up rating this one 4.25 out of 5 stars. Next is also the prequel to another fantasy book, and if I'm not wrong, you need not read the first book and this one, which is book 0, in the order they were published. You can read them in any way. And the book is Bookshops and Bonedust by Travis Baldree, which is the prequel to Legends and Lattes by the same author. This is a cozy fantasy book, and I can say that the age range for this one is anywhere from 14 and above. And it's an adult fantasy book since the characters whom we see here are adults, but it does not have anything that can be read by anyone who's 14 and above. So you can definitely go forward and try it if you're interested. And in this book, we follow the story of our main character, Viv, who's an orc, and she has kind of a violent past because of her career before the first book, Legends and Lattes. And we get to see that career inside this book. And we build a coffee shop in Legends and Lattes, and in Bookshops and bonedust, we go forward and refurbish an old bookshop, which is really cozy in its vibes. This book also has a plot just as Legends and Lattes does. But for me personally, that's not the main reason why I'm reading these books at all. And if I'm not wrong, there's also another book coming inside the same world and dealing with the same characters by the author. I don't know when it is releasing, but I will definitely go forward and read it because this gave me nearly the same kind of cozy vibes that Legends and Lattes did. But still, I like that book more compared to this one. So if you want to read a nice cozy book which is very bookish in its tone, you can definitely go forward and try this one. I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next, we have a children's fiction book, which is also kind of a magical realism, if you ask me. I cannot categorize this as fantasy, so I'm saying it as magical realism. And the book is To Be a Cat by Matt Haig. Now, I'm reading Matt Haig after a long time. I think I've read like 4 or 5 of his books before this one. And this had the same kind of vibes that a Matt Haig book has. Okay, they are quite dark in their tone, but the way in which the author delivers the story is kind of cozy, okay, for some books. And it was the same here though, since it's a children's book. Here we follow our main character, Barney Willow, who's having kind of a sucky life right now, and he's just 11 years old. His parents are divorced and he's living with his mother. He can live with his father only during the weekends. And during this time, his father has gone missing due to some reason. And Barney is also in this new school where he has to deal with all the people there, mostly bullies, and the headmistress, who's the most awful of all the bullies inside the school. During this time, Barney sees a cat and he wishes that it will be nice to live life as a cat. His wish comes true and he becomes a cat. What all happens in his life after he becomes the cat and what all he experiences is the story of this book. It is quite a heartwarming story. It has certain elements to it which can trigger some people because, you know, it deals with children and sad things happening to them. Not like horrible things, but sad things. So this can be read by anyone who's like 8 or 9 years and above in age, and even if you're an adult, you can definitely go forward and try reading it because Matt Haig has that knack to narrate stories which are for a certain age range but can be interpreted by all age ages too. I definitely enjoyed reading this book and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, we have a tiny little novel which is very bookish. It's a mystery novel actually, and the main plot of the novel is a mystery, but it is definitely for book lovers, okay? The book is The Haunted Bookshop by Christopher Morley, and if I'm not wrong, this has a companion story which is kind of a prequel to this one. I have the audiobook of that one in Storytel, so I might listen to it in February. I'm not sure though. So in this book, we follow this person who has this bookshop named The Haunted Bookshop, and the specialty about this bookshop is he does not have much rules at all, okay? It's not like you cannot go inside the bookshop and browse through anything. You cannot stand and read the books there. There are no rules like that. You can do anything that a book lover would love to do inside the bookshop, and the owner just lets you. During this time only, there is this young lady who comes kind of like an apprentice to the bookshop, and she wants to work there because her father and the owner of the bookshop are friends, and he wants his daughter to go and work in this bookshop in order to gain some work experience, and it happens in the time just after the First World War. It has that historical significance too, and this bookshop is located in Brooklyn in New York. But trust me, this book does not have anything that is specific to any regions of the world at all. Personally for me, if you're a book lover, you'll just love the vibes of this book so much because 90% of the story happens inside this bookshop, which is super cozy. And trust me, if you're a book lover, if you are someone who loves books in some way or the other, you'll be able to feel this book in your bones because it is that really well written. I can see myself rereading this book definitely in the future because I thoroughly enjoyed the ambience and atmosphere of this book so much. It was to such an extent that I did not care about the mystery for most parts. As a whole, it was an amazing experience, and I ended up rating this one 4 out of 5 stars again. Next, we have an Indian romance book, and was also my book club pick for 2025 in January, which is Tea for Two and a Piece of Cake by Preeti Shenoy. And this is the book which I can say I enjoyed the most in January. I enjoyed it to such an extent that I was not able to put the book down at all. I compelled myself to not go forward and read this book because I knew that if I started reading this one, I will not be wanting to do any of the other work that I had in my schedule. So I just pushed it as far as I can. And even with that, I finished reading it in just 2 sittings or 3 sittings at most. Here we follow the story of Nisha, who gets married to this very wealthy man when she is 26, and after 8 years from her marriage, they both get separated, and she is the mother of 2 children right now. She does not want to live at the expenses of her ex-husband now, and she starts living life on her own terms. During this time only, she also ends up finding another love from a younger guy whom she used to know, and she has this choice of whether she wants to live her life on her own terms but a bit sad, or to live her life on her own terms but much happier. What choice will she make is the plot of this book, and it was really well dealt by the author. Just like I say for all other Preeti Shenoy books too, this is very Indian nude score. I enjoyed reading reading this one so much, and it ended up being the first book that I rated 5 stars in Goodreads this year, but it was a 4.5-star read for me. The last physical book that we have here is a Greek mythology retelling, and this is the retelling of Medusa's story, which is Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. I know only a little bit about Medusa before reading this book, and I don't know her backstory too. But after reading this one, I just felt so sad for Medusa, and the way in which the author has written this book is amazing. If you're a person who does not have any background of Greek mythology like me, and if you're someone who does not read that many fantasy books or mythological books like this one, I think this would be a great way to start, because the author's writing in this one is very direct and it is very easy to read. Sometimes it is so easy to read that it makes you laugh at times because of all the things that are going on here. She treats certain gods as children because of the childish ways in which they are acting in certain scenes, and it was really beautifully done. After I finished reading this one, the first thing that I had in my mind was that I want to go forward and read more works which talk about the life story of Medusa, because it made me feel for her so deeply. The book is just amazing, and I want to read more by this author in specific, Natalie Haynes. And if I'm not wrong, she has already written a lot more Greek mythology retellings. I want to go forward and give them a try, because this is definitely something which was handled in a way that I've not seen in any other books before. Again, I may go forward and reread this sometime in the future. I don't know though. But if you are someone who likes reading really good mythological retelling stories, this is definitely one you should go forward and pick up. And I ended up rating this one also 4.5 out of 5 stars. Moving on to the audiobooks, I have finished reading one of the most popular thriller books out there, and I did not know that this was available as an audiobook in Storytel. I just was browsing through some random things and I found it. The book is obviously The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I read the second book by this author, which is The Maidens, last year for my book club in April, if I'm not wrong. And from then itself, I have been wanting to read The Silent Patient. I want this edition of the book in paperback. That's why I have not bought it yet. And this one was really good. Okay, I just enjoyed the experience of reading this book. It's easily not the best thriller that I've read so far, but it is definitely one book which made me want to keep reading continuously. The audiobook was just 8 or 9 hours long, and I was not able to stop listening to it at all. I just finished it over a weekend when I was working too much too. So here we follow our main character Theo, who's acting as the psychotherapist for this woman who has ended up killing her husband, and after that she's just stopped talking. She's an artist and her husband was a photographer. Why she killed him, why she's not talking right now, all of these are just revealed to us inside the book as the plot progresses. And towards the end, it is kind of anticlimactic if you ask me. I guessed the climax, but I was also not able to understand. I can see who the killer is, but I don't know how this is going to end up in. I did identify the killer right, and I was able to predict the ending of the story, but the way in which it was delivered was something which I was not able to accept towards the end. But as a whole, it was a really well written book. I love the writing of the author so much. It is very beautiful, and I want to read the other book, which is The Fury by him too. I'll try to read it this year. If you are a beginner, you can definitely go forward and try reading this book, because you'll not be able to put it down at all. I ended up rating this one also 4 out of 5 stars. The next 5 audiobooks are from a single series, and it is one of the most popular romance book series out there. Okay, there's also a super popular Netflix adaptation of this one, which is The Bridgertons by Julia Quinn. I finished reading the first 5 books of the 8 or 9 books inside the series, and I will be finishing the series in February because it is very addictive for me. So in this series, we follow this family called the Bridgertons in England in the 1800s, and there are totally 8 siblings inside this family who are all named in an alphabetical order. That is, the eldest son has his name starting at A, and the youngest daughter of the siblings has her name starting with H. By far, I've read the love stories of the first 5 siblings, and each and every book deals with the love story of one of the 5 siblings. It's not in that order though. The order changes, but each and every book is the love story of each and every one of the siblings. The 5 books that I've read so far inside the series are The Duke and I, The Viscount Who Loved Me, An Offer from a Gentleman, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, and To Sir Philip with Love. Now, I've heard that this series is very spicy when it comes to the romance, but basically it's not like that, okay? Of the 100% of the book that you see, there is utmost spiciness to like 20% maximum inside the books, and each and every one of the stories is very compelling, okay? I liked all the main characters that we've seen so far in the 5 books, and I thoroughly enjoyed each and every one of the stories because I just wanted to keep on reading them. Even the narrator whom I was listening to for these audiobooks was really nice. She has this very good British accent which just makes the story come to life even more. And if I'm not wrong, in the adaptations of these books, they've deliberately made the casting for the series a lot more diverse in order to just, provide the story for many more people. I can guarantee you that after I finished listening to all the audiobooks inside the series, I will go forward and watch the Netflix series too, because I'm just enjoying this series very, very much. And also as a family, the Bridgertons are so much fun to be around because they are dramatic in another level. Each and every one of these books are super dramatic, okay? Inside romance, the genre for these books in specific is Regency romance, if I'm not wrong. And I'm totally loving the series so much for that itself. If I finish reading the series, I might even continue on reading some of the other books by the author, I don't know. But by far, I've enjoyed each and every one of the 5 books and I rated each and every one of them 4 stars. For me, of all the 5 books that I've read inside the series, my most favorite so far is the 4th book, which is Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. It has the most plot and it was also so much fun to read. So yeah, I just have 4 more books inside the series to finish it. Once I finish reading the series, I'll definitely come to you guys with an elaborate review for all the 9 books inside it. If you're someone who likes romance, this is definitely one series you cannot miss. I did not expect myself to enjoy the series to the extent that I'm enjoying it right now. So if you're interested in romance at all, and since it's February, just go forward and give it a try. I'm sure you'll not be disappointed. The next 3 audiobooks are also 3 books inside a YA contemporary romance trilogy. This series is called the Dash and Lily series by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. The main reason why I went forward and started listening to this series is because I like David Levithan's writing style so much. It is very, very nice to read. It is very close to my heart for some reason. So the 3 books inside the series are Dash and Lily's Book of Dash, The 12 Days of Dash and Lily, and Mind the Gap Dash and Lily. There's a Netflix adaptation for this one also. It's a limited series if I'm not wrong. I've not watched it yet, but I will definitely go forward and watch it because the series is also very, very cute. Okay, it's YA, so anyone who's 13 or 14 and above can go forward and read all the 3 books. They are very, very nice to read. And the best time to read the series would be during the Christmas season because each and every one of the 3 books happened during Christmas in 3 different years. In the beginning of the series, which is with the first book, Dash and Lily's Book of Dash, we follow our main character Lily leaving this red notebook inside a library in which she writes some dash. Our other main character Dash goes up and picks up that book by chance and he starts doing all the dash inside the book. Through this, both of them fall for each other during the end of book 1, and in book 2 and book 3, the romance just develops. For me personally, the first and second books were okay. They were not bad and they were not excellent either. They were just basic for me. And the final book inside the series was much better compared to the first 2, if you ask me. It's definitely a solid YA romance series and you can go forward and try it if you're interested. I rated the first and second books 3 stars each and the third book alone 3.5 stars. Now talking about the ebooks, the first ebook which I finished reading is the first book inside a dragon fantasy novella series, and it is The Dragon in the Cage, which is the first book inside the series. And in this book we follow our main character whose brother is a dragon hunter, and during one of his hunts he ends up bringing a baby dragon from the place where he killed its parents, and his younger brother, who's the main character of the story, ends up taking the dragon with him. And he tries to save the dragon. That's the main plot of this first book. It is fairly well written. It is very, very easy to read. And I think it was available for free in Kindle sometime during last year and I got it back then. You can sit down and finish reading this book in just like 1 or 1.5 hours max. And the story is also really well written. It is very good for beginners because it is super simple and easy to read. I liked this book and I want to try the other 2 books inside the series too. I might read it sometime this year, but I'm not sure though. But as a whole, this was nice and I ended up rating this one 4 out of 4 stars. Next, we have a non-fiction book which is about creativity, and the book is The Power of Creativity by Bryan Collins. In this book, the author talks about some of the things that he has learned about creativity and how it can improve our entire life in different ways. It also helps us increase our productivity, which I was not aware of. And being creative just doesn't mean that you have to keep on whipping out things which are new to the world at all, because most of the things that are there in the world are not completely original. You get inspired from certain things, you get inspired from other people's works, and there's also not enough time for everyone to go forward and be creative each and every day. I like how this book was very practical in its approach and how the author included a lot of his own life experiences inside the book and used them to give us ways in which we can practice certain things in a daily way without burning ourselves out, but also contributing to the work that we want to contribute towards. So because of all these reasons, I think this is definitely one book everyone can go for and give a try reading, and I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars again. Finally, the last ebook inside this wrap-up is a horror book, and it is Ghost Stories by Ron Ripley, which is a collection of 6 to 8 horror short stories. And this also I read on Kindle only. It was available for free sometime last year. But I can say that this was not that great for me, okay? All these stories are very, very short, so you can easily go forward and finish reading the entire book in just a couple of hours or so. But it didn't feel like I was frightened to such a great extent while I was reading these books. The author has also written so many other ghost stories and ghost books, if I'm not wrong. And I think the author's full-length novels or works like that, which are not confined to a small page count, can do a lot better. This wasn't disappointing, but it did not live up to the standards that I had in my mind. So I ended up rating this one 3 out of 5 stars. So yes guys, those are all the 20 books which I finished reading in January, and I need not even say because January was just an amazing reading month for me. I am a bit tired though, so I might not read as many books as I did in January in February. But we don't know what's going to happen. Let's just cross our fingers and hope that I keep up going on with the strike and also not burning myself out. The last video I published on the channel is also about 50 plus romance book recommendations, which is packed with romance books that you can read for this Valentine's month, that is February. So do watch that video if you are interested and if you have not watched it yet. And comment your January wrap up in the comments because I'd like to know what you read. If you read the book club pick with me, do tell me that also down in the comments. And for February in the book club, we are reading Incredia or Luan of Crida by Sarang Mahajan. I have started reading the book already. Tell me in the comments whether you're doing that or not. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.